What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's team selection for game week 35. It feels a little bit like the calm before the storm, right? We've got another single game week, and then we're on back-to-back double game weeks, which is going to be very interesting indeed. I do think the way my team is set up, I probably am going to have to make a transfer for 35. I'll talk about that in a minute, as well as my captaincy plans. Let's quickly touch on game week 34, which is still ongoing. The Chelsea versus Man United game is being played tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm a little bit worried about what might happen to Man United again, but who knows? Fingers crossed they can get a win finally. I've got 3 Chelsea players in my team. Reece James obviously didn't play against West Ham. Really frustrating that we didn't find out that he was feeling something in his hamstring until after the deadline, but that is FPL, that is football, it happens. Obviously, Alonso came in with a 10-pointer, which was really good, an assist near the end, and obviously got his bonus points as well. And Havertz blanked, which isn't ideal, but realistically, the only other player I would have captained in this team was probably Salah. He only got an assist, no bonus points, so Havertz only really needs to turn up and get a clean sheet tonight. He may not start, we'll have to wait and see. I know there's obviously some rotation concerns there, but as a Man United fan, I would be more worried if Havertz starts than if Lukaku does, and I think Tuchel will probably be thinking similar. So if they're going to get a rest, maybe it'll be in a future game. I think we could see a very similar lineup tonight to who played against West Ham. Even though they weren't great and they did find it difficult to break West Ham down at times, Man United are not going to defend as organised as David Moyes' West Ham team, I don't think, anyway. So I think Tuchel should probably keep it as it was, but we'll see what happens. So I'm on 53 -4. Right now, that is just about a green arrow. I've put Weghorst in my team. I didn't actually play Weghorst. I played Chris Wood, but I got lucky that he didn't come on at all, and Weghorst will come off my bench. Elsewhere, Saka is now a penalty merchant, apparently. He's got penalties out of nowhere, 2 in a row. Who knows if he'll keep getting them, but he continues to be one of my best buys this season. And elsewhere was pretty, I guess, rubbish. Most of the other players. Cancelo obviously only with 1 against Watford. That wasn't to be expected at all. Kulusevski blanked again. Rafinha blanked. I would say again, but he's got returns the previous 3 games. He may need to go now, though. I wasn't that impressed with Leeds against Palace. I felt like they didn't really keep the ball too well. There wasn't too many attacks either, and their fixtures obviously coming up are pretty difficult. We'll come on to that in a sec. I just want to give a shout out to Dubravka. 3 clean sheets in his last 4 games, and for the second time in recent weeks, I've played him over Sarr at Wolves, and for the second time, it's come out really nicely. So he was obviously a bright spot. The rest of it was a bit rubbish, really. And I'm not hoping that Chelsea do too much against Man United, so we'll see how it comes out. But this was obviously double game week for Chelsea. We're going on to a single now and then 2 back-to-back doubles. So let's get started with game week 35. Okay, so this is how we're lining up for 35 in terms of defenders and goalkeepers. So I am going to play Jose Sarr this week, Brighton at home. Dubravka's done what I needed him to do over the last few weeks. Obviously got a clean sheet in the double as well, but he's playing Liverpool. So he goes on the bench and Jose Sarr comes in. Trent is obvious, Newcastle away, more than happy to play him there. And the fact that Cancelo missed the first leg against Real Madrid because he was suspended almost certainly puts him back into the team for Leeds. It's also worth noting, for anyone that doesn't own him, John Stones seemed to go off injured in the Champions League match, so we'll have to see what Pep says about him. And he has been talking about Walker maybe being back, but he's not been playing either because of injury. So it looks very difficult for Pep to rest Cancelo anytime soon. So if you've not already picked him up, he looks like a great option. I do think in the past, Leeds is like a team that I would always worry about scoring. I don't expect them to beat Man City whatsoever. But I've got to be honest, in recent games, I'm not sure if that kind of attacking impetus is really there as much. It doesn't feel like it anyway when you watch them. So I think if you've got maybe 1 or 2 1 or 2 Man City defenders, you're probably looking pretty good this week. I think last year maybe you'd worry a little bit more about Leeds away. Again, not that Man City won't win the game, but just that they would concede. So Cancelo looks good. James and Alonso a little bit trickier. I'm actually less worried about Alonso at this point than I am Reece James. I just think Alonso has kind of played himself back into the side. I don't think they look any better in a back 4. And I think the wing-back system is what they need to play going forward. Right? They need to stick with that. I think that's what they'll play against Liverpool in the FA Cup final. I think Alonso will get pretty good minutes between now and then. He probably is going to miss a game at some point. I think that's just going to be the same for most Chelsea players. But I'm not convinced it will definitely be Everton. I think that Leeds game game in 36, which I talked about a lot, is the one where I can see a few players missing out. So I think at this point, given how good Alonso can be, we haven't seen what he's going to do against Man United yet, but he's done all right against West Ham. I've probably got to keep him. Reece James is the problem, and I'm not quite sure what needs to happen in tonight's game for me to want to play him against Everton. So for example, if he travels with a team and he's in the squad but he doesn't start and he comes on for a cameo, does that make him much more likely to start against Everton? Possibly. I think if that happens, he doesn't start, he's on the bench, but he gets good minutes, like 20 to 30, then I'll probably keep him for Everton. I know it can feel like you're sat in a trap where you just think, well, next game he'll be great, next game he'll start, next time he'll get returns, next time he'll play right wing back. But I think if he gets decent minutes and they start building up his workload, that could be good for a start against Everton. If there's anything that happens, like he's benched and he only comes on for a few minutes, or he's not in the squad at all, I might just have to get rid of him before Everton, because as much as I'd love to see him playing right wing back again and absolutely smashing it, there is every chance that Tuchel, just to get his minutes up again, plays him as a right centre back. It did sound like the last game was more of a precaution than really any kind of major injury. So I don't know if we should be too concerned about him, but I just think his minutes will be managed going forward. And he could play right centre-back instead of right wing-back, where he's not such a good option. So for me, there's two players I'm looking at, and only really two. Because I'm free hitting in game week 37, I'm not so worried about getting someone like Matt Cash in, even though Norwich at home looks like a great fixture. So I'm going to be looking at Robertson and Laporte, and it's literally going to come down to what other moves do I want to make, and if I go for Robertson, will he then get in the way of those moves? If he doesn't, he's probably the one that I will bring in. I think I want to be careful that I'm not being too kind of pushed into it because of what happened last week, right? You get a goal, you get a clean sheet, bonus points, you absolutely smash it. Is that in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about Robertson? But he was kind of in my plans anyway. So Reece James to Robertson is a genuine option. If not, Reece James to Laporte. I don't know if I really need to rush out and get double Man City defence this week against Leeds away. But for the double, Newcastle and Wolves, I think double City defence looks really, really good. So Reece James, I think I don't really know what could change my mind for getting rid of him. I think if I don't do it this week, I probably will do it for game week 36 anyway, and Robertson will probably be the key target. Okay, so coming on to the midfield, this is probably where I'm most likely to make a move this week. I'm not 100% set on it, but I'll talk through it in a minute. I think Salah will definitely be my captain this week. I don't have Son or Kane. Right now, I don't have De Bruyne or Foden either, but I just think I'd be slightly worried about their minutes, let alone a start, right? But if they do start, how quickly will Pep get them back off the pitch? And because of that, I'll probably go for Salah. I know Salah played the whole 90 minutes against Villarreal, but it wasn't an intense game. It wasn't really a physical game. Liverpool had a lot of the ball. I'm not saying they didn't have to work, but, you know, it's not like, you know, you've just played Man City in a semi-final, you've played Real Madrid, and it's kind of end-to-end. There's a lot of running and work to do. It just wasn't like that against Villarreal for a lot of the game. So I'm not really worried about him starting. It is the early fixture, so we should get Liverpool team news, but we'll have to wait and see. But he will most likely be my captain. I just don't really see anyone in this team that I'd rather captain this week. I think Saka is, he's flagged, but he should be fine. I think he's been pictured in training. It seems to be like a minor thing anyway, like a bit of a precaution. Unless Arteta says otherwise, I'm going to assume he starts. And if Lacazette's not on the pitch, seemingly Saka's now the first choice penalty taker when Lacazette's not there, which is obviously good for FPL. He's just dispatched the last 2 penalties as well. I think it's not a bad time to play West Ham. I think they're going to be in between Europa League kind of first leg, second leg as semi-final. There's obviously a lot of talk about the fact they're missing virtually all their kind of first choice senior centre-backs. I think the one thing worth from it, because I think people put a lot of stock in that, like they're now suddenly going to be awful. But we've got to remember against Chelsea, it was a very similar situation. Yes, they had Dawson. Yes, he's now suspended, so he's missing out. But otherwise, the rest of the team, Moyes is still picking from similar players that just did pretty well against Chelsea. So I don't think they suddenly become this really, really easy team to break down. I think they're very well organised. They play in that low block and they do it well. So I think Saka versus West Ham is not a bad time to play them. But I wouldn't start elevating Saka to like captaincy material necessarily, especially when you've got like Salah, Son or Kane or someone like that. Just my opinion anyway. The next 3 are tricky. Havertz, I think I'm going to have to keep. I think I may even keep him for game week 36 as well. I just think he is the first choice number 9. How much chance is there that Tuchel plays him only once in the next 3 fixtures? So forget Man United a second. Everton, and then what is it? Wolves and Leeds, I think. I need to double check that for Chelsea. I can't remember exactly who they play. Yeah, it's Wolves and Leeds. Again, that Leeds game for sure. But I think there's every chance that he plays Everton and Wolves. So I don't know if I want to switch him. The other question is, if I change one of my midfielders, bearing in mind I got 3.2 million in the bank, who do I go to? So my main player that I would like is Foden. But I have to be a little bit wary about whether he starts Leeds. I think the fact that he missed Watford tells me that he probably will start against Leeds, even though he played in the Champions League, and I think he played the whole match as well. I just think for most of the season, Foden has been first choice, and in some ways he started when he's been fit, like almost as many times as kind of Kevin De Bruyne has. I think he's that important to Pep's team right now. So I'm pretty tempted to go for him, but I just don't know if right now is the time to switch Havertz, because if he does start against Everton, that's a really good fixture. Now, with Kulusevski and Rafinha, it's a little bit tricky for me, because Kulusevski obviously has the better fixture this week, but in game week 36, Rafinha has the better double. But I don't know if I'm just putting too much emphasis on trying to keep Rafinha. I think Man City at home looks like a blank waiting to happen. So I think right now, Rafinha to Foden is probably the transfer I prefer the most. And that doesn't necessarily stop me from getting Robertson in for James. If I think James isn't going to start, I'll probably make both moves and just take the hit, because I think getting Foden in for the double in 36 and getting Robertson in for the double in 36 as well, it's probably worth just doing it this week if I don't think that James or Rafinha are going to score too well. Again, if Kulusevski had Man City and Rafinha had Leicester this week, and then they had the same double game weeks they've got right now, I would absolutely keep Rafinha. I think he's definitely going to play 90 minutes twice in the double game, almost up to 90 minutes, right? 80 to 90. He is on penalties as well. There is a part of me that wants to keep him, but I think I'm probably more likely to sell him than Kulusevski this week, and that will probably be my moves. There's a chance I go for Coutinho. And again, I want to make sure that I'm not being too biased about the picks I make, because if you've not got a free hit, Coutinho just looks obvious, right? Norwich, Burnley over the next 3 game weeks, as well as the other couple of fixtures. They got Palace at home and Liverpool as well. But for me, I'm going to free hit in game week 37. So Coutinho is a little bit of a weaker option. But the fact that he plays Norwich and he's got Burnley as one of the games in the double, and I'm pretty confident he'll start all 3 of those games, makes him quite a close contender to Foden. I just think that Man City team, what could they do against Leeds? We just saw how many goals they put past Real Madrid. I'd worry for how Leeds might set up and how that game might turn out to them for them, a bit like it did in the reverse fixture. I'm sure like Marcelli was going to go for it. I'm not sure how much that will actually happen, but I just don't think they've got the defensive capabilities to stop Man City. Not many teams on the planet have that capability at all. So that's how the team is set up. I think Salah captain, probably Rafinha to Foden. I might also do James to Robertson as well. We'll add in the forwards as well. Shout out to Weghorst. Watford away. I'm looking forward to what he can do. I think Burnley last few games looked all right. Got an assist last week, a goal the week before. Who knows what he can do against Watford. I am on that kind of one forward formation. I probably now will play that for 35, 36 and game week 38. I actually think in game week 37 for the free hit, which we won't discuss right now, but I think absolutely it'll probably be 2 or 3 forwards just because of the way the fixtures fall. But for my normal team, I'm definitely going to go for that single game week striker. Chris Wood's probably done in my team now for the rest of the season. Ideally, I never really wanted to get him anyway. It was just that Lacazette kind of obviously missing out through illness, which meant I had to do it. But yeah, that is kind of how the team's set up. And just to kind of show you the moves, right, this is on FPL.team if you want to check this out. If I do the Rafinha move, I've got to be honest, Foden is who I want. I do want him instead of Coutinho. It's all going to come down to how many minutes I think he's going to get. And obviously I'll put Jose Sarr in as well. So that would be the team if I think that Reece James is going to start. If I want to do Reece James to Robertson, I absolutely can. I think for the double game week, there is a chance that a Man City defender outscores a Liverpool one. But I think a combination of this week plus next week, I probably would just go for Robertson. And that would be a -4, and that would leave me 0.8 in the bank. And then you go to next week. The big kind of question marks for me next week, if I've got this team, and obviously, like I said, Liverpool do play Spurs, so that could be a tricky game to keep a clean sheet, is how many hits do I take and how many players do I absolutely have to replace? So Kulusevski, for example, Liverpool away and Arsenal at home is pretty tricky. But again, which midfielder can I get in that's going to definitely play twice? I mean, by freeing up the Reece James spot, I could get Mason Mount in. That is possibly an option for me and could happen. But again, that Leeds away game, I really do worry about. I know Chelsea are not just going to probably rotate all 11 players, and Mount does start most games. but he's also one of their most important players. So it'd be a good time to rest him ahead of an FA Cup final. So I'm very kind of conscious of not making too many more midfield changes this week anyway, because I just don't know what the minutes are going to be like in Game Week 36. I joked about that on Twitter. My analysis for Game Week 36 is basically, he's great if he plays twice. Will he play twice? No idea. That is basically it, which I know doesn't sound great. The other option is doing Wood to Pukki, maybe Richarlison, but Pukki gives me a bit of extra money to spend. So Pukki would come in with a double game week. That's one transfer. 1.5 million in the bank would let me do Luca Dean to Laporte. And I do quite like the idea of having double... I think double City attack is more interesting for Game Week 36, but I think double defence against Newcastle home, Wolves away is about as good as it's going to get for a double game week. And then bench Kulusevski. But again, is it worth taking a hit just to bench Kulusevski? Possibly not. And then the final thing, which I won't go into right now, is Jose Sarr. Do I really want him for Chelsea away and Man City at home? There's possible save points there. But is it worth taking an additional hit to go to Schmeichel, maybe go to Edison if the money's there as well? So this is probably what I'll look like for 36. Game Week 37 is a free hit. And then in Game Week 38, I think if you've got a lot of Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City players, they've all got a good fixture in Game Week 38. And I'd probably just switch Weghorst in for Pukki and then just decide what kind of transfer I want to make. Kulusevski could come back in for Norwich away. There's loads of different ways to play it. But I think right now, I think I probably need to make a midfield change, Foden or Coutinho to come in, possibly Robertson in for James, and then worry about Game Week 36 next week. And just that would be my third hit in a row if I do that. But I think without the wild card, trying to keep up with all the double game weeks is something that needs to happen. Let me know below what you think of that plan. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.